Hello, Internet. You're listening to Weekly Art Tips. I'm your host, Ando Andros, but you can call me Ando for short. Welcome to our first episode. Woohoo! Anyways, the topic we'll be discussing is fear, specifically the fear that comes from sharing your work with others. When I was first starting out as an artist, back in high school, I honestly had the opposite problem. I ran around showing my drawings to anyone foolish enough to cross my path. I was just so darn proud of everything I made. My friends would kind of get a little exasperated every time I would share my work, because I would do it all the freaking time. It really wasn't until I started art school that I got a taste of that fear of inadequacy that I feel a lot of artists go through at some point. There was just this nagging suspicion in the back of my mind that I wasn't good enough, and that everyone was just so much farther ahead than me, and I was wasting my time trying to catch up. It got to the point that I just didn't want to show anybody what I was working on because I felt like they would say that my art was garbage. That fear of failure really gripped me, and it wasn't until junior year that I was able to shake that fear that I was a bad artist. I learned that that type of fear isn't helpful, and it may not even have any basis in reality as well. I'm not saying that I don't still have anxiety about my work, but I found ways to keep that kind of fear in check. Last November, I was attending CTNX, an animation expo in Burbank. It was my first time there, and I was really nervous about showing my portfolio to anyone for almost half of the first day. I didn't even take it out of my bag until I was talking with another attendee, and she asked if I wanted to trade portfolios with her. I was like, yeah, okay. And we swapped. While I was looking over her work, I was a bit relieved. Her stuff wasn't too different than mine in the technical terms, and she was a lot more confident than I had been. When we swapped back, I was even more relieved when she said that my work was actually really good. That little bit of support got me out of my shell, and I was able to work up the nerve to show my portfolio to more people. If that fear had been too great, I might not have shown my work to anyone that whole day, and I wouldn't have gotten such great feedback that weekend. Don't let the fear of failure petrify you. Failure is actually important. I know that sounds bonkers, but it's true. Failure is something we are taught to avoid, but it's actually a great teaching tool. It helps you learn what doesn't work so that you can one day find out what does. Just put in the effort and you'll get there eventually if you don't give up. Yeah, I know that sounds cheesy, like something you'd read in the back of a greeting card, but it's true. I feel like it's easy to look at work from artists you admire and just think, wow, I'm trash. I'll never get that good. But really, I feel like talent in art doesn't come naturally. It takes years and years of hard work and devotion to become a truly great artist. So if you're a relatively new artist, maybe you've only been drawing or painting for a few years, you are automatically not going to be as good as somebody who's been working professionally for 10 or 20 years. But if you constantly learn your craft and work just as long, you will definitely get that good. Just give yourself time. After all, those artists you love so much were beginners once too. They didn't start out being wonderful. Also, for young artists, please remember that your bodies are still developing, and you might not have as much precise control over your hands now as you will when you're older. Getting back to sharing your work, don't feel like you can't share anything, but also on the flip side, don't share everything you've ever made either. I know it's tempting to post everything you have on social media, but sometimes we need to come to grips with the fact that some pieces are just not quite there yet. It's okay to admit that something isn't working. Maybe try revising your piece, or even scrapping it and starting over. If you get into the mentality that you must share constantly, you'll get into a situation where a majority of your work is inferior to the few pieces you're truly proud of. You want to showcase your best work to your audience. They will take you more seriously if you show discretion in choosing what works you want to be public. I myself have a couple of folders full of sketches that may never see the light of day again. If you feel like you can't decide on whether or not to post something, you can always ask somebody whose opinion you trust. Just remember, there is a solid middle ground between posting everything and posting nothing, and you want to be right there. So that's my advice on dealing with fear. I really hope this inspires you to share your work with the public, even if you feel like you could use some more time to improve. We all feel like we can improve in some way, and sometimes that fear comes back when we least expect it. But don't let it keep you from your passion, and keep arting for as long as you can. Thanks for listening to our first installment of Weekly Art Tips. If you like what you hear, please visit my channel for other art tips, or hit that subscribe button to know when the next episode is out. If you are on DeviantArt, please join the Weekly Art Tips group to share your progress in our galleries. I'll also be posting these videos to the journal section with a little introduction for each one. If you would like to see my own page, I'll include a link to my account, Draw Out Loud, in the description below. So let me know what you think of our first tip, and join us for the next episode where we'll be discussing tools. See you soon!